What is up, everyone? Circon is here bringing you guys another video, and this time around, I'm gonna remind Wargaming that there's different medium tank lines in this game that you might want to take a look at. And the reason why I kind of want to address this is because, well, I hope Wargaming actually fucking sees this, and who knows, they may or may not see it. So in the next patch, which is 9.22, it's mostly focused, of course, around, well, I say of course, but it's focused around the Russian tanks, which is all fine and dandy. You know, they go from tech tree to tech tree usually. And something struck me that was like, why? And that is pretty much the buffs to the tier 8 mediums for the Russians. Now, these have been buffed not too long ago. And they're getting buffed on top of that again in the next patch, if all this goes through, which, you know, I'm sure it will. So the people that have the first prototype, the T-44-100, rejoice, because your tank is going to be even better. And I literally haven't heard anyone complain about the first prototype or T-44-100, especially after the buffs. So what did they buff? Well, they buffed the gun handling, they buffed especially the armor. The turret armor got a lot better, they got higher base pen. And all in all, these tanks are a freaking joy to play. I haven't really touched the first prototype, I gotta be honest, because I had one really good game in it, and I like to have some weird stats in my collection. It's a weird thing. I'll probably get around to playing it, but I've played a lot against them. And I've played a lot of T-44-100 after the buffs, checking that out. And, you know, there's a video of me playing it several times on the YouTube channel. And that's basically a T-44 with side skirts. For the most part, that is just the way it is, and it makes money. So I've been playing that a lot during the Christmas times to get the most out of my credit boosters and the boosters we had for having a tier 10 garage, stuff like this. So it struck me as something really weird that these things are getting buffed in this patch, because I feel like this is not really needed at all, especially when you take a look at the atrocious stats that nearly any other tier A mediums got. Right, I took a couple of tanks that are remotely similar to it, with around the same alpha and kind of the same characteristics a little bit. You know, I got a CDC in there because, for the love of God, it feels like Wargaming forgot that there's a CDC out there. The Premium Victoria, which is one of the latest premiums to get added, the Pilot got buffed recently, and the Type 59 got buffed recently as well, which are both sort of similar tanks. And just look at the sea of red that is displayed here. So if it's red, it is worse than the first tank, and the first tank is the T-44-100, which, again, as a reminder, has pretty much similar stats to the T-44. And it's actually crazy when you look at it on paper. Okay, now Type 59 can be excused a little bit in part to having limited matchmaking, right? The pilots, STA, Premium Victoria, and the CDC all do not. And if we take a look at the gun handling, this is on the 9.22 public test. Look at this crazy as fuck gun handling. This is insanely good, like insanely good. 1.92 aiming time? Are you serious? With crazy on the move, tank the first, turret the first stats. And then the only thing that's bad is after firing. So once you've already hit the target, oh my god, you're gonna have to aim. It's gonna be a little bit shittier gun handling, guys. And then it has a very, very nice, still has a very nice 7 degrees of gun depression. It has good elevation, which is, you know, sometimes kind of needed going down hills and shit like this. It goes 52, and it got buffed to power to weight of 23. 23! With better terrain resistance in hard, medium, soft. Turret the first is sick. Tank the first is sick. The effective traverses on hard and medium soil or ground is fucking sick. Like, look at this compared to the CDC. What the fuck? What is this? The CDC is supposed to be the fast one here, as you can see by the power to weight. But in reality, wow, you're getting so notoriously fucked by terrain resistances. And then I noticed this as well. 40 versus 50 turret traverse. That's a huge deal, because the CDC only has its speed. I've been playing the CDC a lot lately, and that thing has no armor, gets ammo wrecked by everything. Literally, a T-92 shot me the other day with one shot, and he ammo wrecked me yellow. Look at these stats, like, why? What? Like, I understand that this patch is about Russian tech tree tanks, right? But so I guess, you know, I get why they're buffing some more Russian tanks. But this video hopefully serves as a reminder that you guys released the CDC, guys. Yeah, you did. You released the CDC back in the day, guys. You could take a look. You can take another look. If you can do 2 patches dedicated to Russian premium tier 8s, you can probably take a look at the CDC by now. Alright? You updated the fucking Centurion to have actual turret armor again. Right? I'm pretty sure they updated the pilot at some point in forms of gun handling. Or I just completely miss out on it. The pilot is dank as fuck. But the CDC, the SCA2, and there's more tier 8 mediums. Look at the sea of red. Not to mention that it's pretty much as mobile as the CDC, better in a lot of situations, and it has good turret armor and decent hull armor. I don't get HE to death, artillery is not gonna pen me like they do the CDC. Like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, again, sure, buff the tier 8 Russians. I don't think it's needed, but hopefully this will serve as a reminder. There is other tech trees out there, guys. There's more tier 8 mediums that haven't received a buff in literally years. Like, I think the CDC by now is like 3 years old or something. And it seems like they just forgot about it. It gets even better. Here you can see the stats between the first one and the second one is today's patch. This is the test server. So you can see that on the move and tank the first, the gun handling is going to be way better. This is a big buff, okay? And they're all going to receive 760 horsepower, which for the T-44-100 means it will have 23 power to weight. And this thing already is almost a UFO at 16 because of the low terrain resistances. Now the Mod 1, the whole philosophy behind the Mod 1 is it has armor on the front where the normal T-44 doesn't, because it has the T-54 hull, or an experimental hull of the T-54, meaning it has 120 sloped hull armor and 200 by now turret armor, which is a lot better than the 90 that you get. 30 millimeters at that slope is a big deal. The Mod 1 is notorious for being really good against its own tier and lower because of the armor, and as a downside, it's supposed to be slower. And it still is, but it's like it still is just because the terrain resistances are worse than the normal T-44, but it's getting a horsepower of 21 power to weight. Why? You're literally taking away most of its only weakness that it has, which is it is a bit more sluggish, alright? It still has a bit, like, sure, dispersion is 1 point worse, and aiming time is 2.1. 2.1 aiming time is perfectly serviceable, alright? So we're taking away one of the few things that is bad about the Mod 1. It still has 44 top speed as, like, you know, a negative, minus 8 kilometers an hour. But you're giving it really good power to weight now, better than a lot of other premiums. And for what reason? That was like the only really weak thing about it, is that it, you know, it was a bit more sluggish because you had fucking tier 9 hull armor on a medium. And then the T-44 got buffed again. And what's also funny is that the T-44-100 just seems better than the T-44 in a lot of ways. So turret defense is better, aiming time is better. And even on moving and tank defense, it's slightly better than a normal T-44, which is also weird. So, again, like, why? Sure, buff the Russians, but please, as a reminder, there is a tank out there called the T-34-2 Wargaming. Yeah, you know, you released this a while ago, right? It is the tier 8 Chinese medium tank. And I've compared it to the T-44 with all the bells and whistles on it. It's the same on the T-44. It has the exact same layout. They both don't have food. And you can see, everything that's green is better than the T-34-2. It has, like, look at this aiming time, all right? On the T-34-2, I put the 100 mil. So, it you know, the comparison is better, right? It is actually crazy. Rate of fire, aim time, all of this. Look at this, 7.117 reload. Aiming time, 2.6. Dispersion 0.37. It's better on the move, better during tank defers. It goes faster, it reverses faster. The power to weight now is way more tank than on the fucking Chinese one. Everything is better except frame assistances, which, you know, are pretty close. Like this is 152, 169. It has 7 degrees of gun depression where it has 5, whilst already having better turret armor, has better hull armor, better engine health, same fuel range, and it's pretty much better in every respect ever. But this is getting 2 buffs in 2 separate patches before the T-44-2 gets even taken a look at. It's ridiculous, dog. Here you have another comparison. I put 59 Pet in there, which is newer than T-44-2. It's kind of like an atrocious machine in itself. It should really get limited matchmaking or something. And you can see the sea of red that just appears in front of your eyes. Like, again, just reminding Wargaming, there is a Chinese medium tank line out there. I know you might have forgotten about it. You gave us a heavy tank at tier 10, which was dope. Let's take a look. The other two tanks coming in. The 430 versus WZ 120. Now, this is a 440 alpha gun versus a 390 alpha gun. That's that's the comparison there. The gun handling, atrocious, right? 3.3 aiming time. Hello? Sorry? Excuse me? What? And then dispersion, sure, it's better than the Optic 430, but you can shoot more, so it's less annoying to have worse dispersion in my experience. And it does have better power to weight and all that. But the frame assistances are better on the 430, so actually playing the tank, it doesn't matter too much because it kind of evens itself out. And also the tank diverse is better on effective, hard, and medium, and soft is slightly worse. And then the armor is again 120 versus 100. It's a really big deal. 100 is cheese at tier 9. 120 will bounce. It's really that simple. The T-54 hull is so much more reliable than, for example, the T-55A, the reward tank, because it only has 100 as well. The turret armor is better whilst having more gun depression by 2 degrees, meaning that the turret will just be better because it's better angled whilst hull down and using your full depression. Right? So again, it's almost better in every way ever, and it has 150 more health. Why? It's a way better brawler than the WZ 120, and the WZ 120 has an even derpier gun, not in dispersion values, but it takes 6 years before you're fully aimed, which you don't have the time for because you don't have the armor. Also, this thing has cupolas like as big as a house. The 430, not so much. Like, sure, like I get you're doing a whole new thing with the Russian tech tree, but again, can we take a look at some other tanks next patch maybe? The comparison here, 430U versus the 121, is a little bit more subtle, but at the end of the day, for the game that is World of Tanks, the stats of the 430U are more important than the 121 stats. The 430U upper hull and turret are crazy good, like heavy tank levels of good. All right, where the 121 has the 120 and the 240 turret, and again it has gigantic cupolas, where the 430U basically doesn't have cupolas. It's crazy. And sure, it has more DPM, has a little bit better penetration, only a little bit, doesn't really matter. Sure, dispersion is a lot better. Again, for some reason, the gun aims so much quicker, and it's better at gun handling on the move, tank defense, turret reverse, all of this. Sure, it's a little bit slower, but not enough to warrant the gigantic armor upgrade it gets. So I get it, the 430U, good tank. It's probably gonna be one of the better tier 10 mediums by the looks of it. It's always hard to tell on the test server. But again, subtle reminder, the Chinese medium tank line exists, by the way. And we had to literally tear out Wargaming to give this thing 5 degrees of gun depression. They literally went from like 3 to like 3.5 first or something like that. It took several patches to get the gun depression to 5, whilst not buffing anything else as far as I know. I'm pretty sure they only buffed the gun depression since its release, and this was my first tier 10 years ago. So again, sure, introduce the Russian tanks. Sure, for all I care, buff the Russian tier 8 premiums and the regular medium. But can we take a look at some more underused tech tree tanks and premium tanks in an upcoming patch? That'd be cool. Alright? Things like the CDC need to be addressed. Things like the T-34-2 need to be addressed. Another nice meme about the T-32 with the big gun, the 122, is that that version of that tank is literally worse than the premium version, and the premium version has limited matchmaking. Alright? My name has been Circon, reminding you all that there's tech trees tanks out there and premium tanks out there that could use a little bit of love once you're done with this little patch buffing the Russians again. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Catch you guys in the next video. If you enjoy this type of content, let me know. It's kind of experimental for me, so if you like it, give me a thumbs up or something. I would especially like a comment saying if you like it or not. If you do like it, why do you like it? If you don't like it, why don't you like it? And then, you know, maybe we can improve the formula and see where we end up with. Thanks a lot for tuning in, though. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.